Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this Warlords of Draenor Beta preview video. And in this video, we're going to be taking a look at one of the new dungeons that's coming with the next expansion, and this is the revamped Upper Blackrock Spire. Now this is the brand new level 90 version, which has got a total of 5 bosses and will be available on both normal and heroic mode. However, in this video, we are only going to be taking a look at the normal mode. So just like with our other dungeon previews, we're just going to take a look at the 5 bosses. However, it is worth noting that this trash that we face at the very start here, you do need to make sure you kill the banners that spawn, because the red circle that goes out from them attracts other mobs that are in the area, and you can end up pulling all of the trash in this one area, and you will constantly wipe for a very long time. Just my 2 cents, and thought I'd let you know that because we did have a few issues, but we got over them in the end. Now moving on to the first boss in this new dungeon, and he goes by the name of Orbender Gor Ashan, and he's electrifying, with a very terrible pun there intended, because why not? So in order to kill this boss, you obviously need to kill off the trash before him, and then in order to access him, you need to go around the room and click on these little orb things that you can see, or little kind of power conduits as they're more commonly known, as they channel electricity to Gor Ashan, and you can't start attacking him until you've killed off his power conduits to start with. Now, throughout the fight, these power conduits will come back to life, and they will channel power to him, reducing his damage taken by 14%, and it will also empower him and give him the ability to cast an ability called Thunder Cacophony. Now, this ability will cause him to become empowered with the energy of the rune conduits, and he will unleash lightning damage periodically, inflicting a moderate amount of nature damage to any nearby enemies. In order to stop this from happening, you need to simply jump down from the platform that you can see us fighting him on, and click on the little conduits again in order to disable the power that goes to him. He'll cast this ability periodically throughout the fight, and as the fight goes on, he will power up more of the conduits in order to reduce his damage taken. His next ability is called Blades of Steel, and this simply deals 57,000 physical damage to his target or a different target. His next ability is called Shrapnel Nova, and this deals 94,500 physical damage to any nearby enemies. Unfortunately, these are just abilities you have to heal through. His next ability is called Lodestone Spike, and this will cause a spike to erupt from the ground, inflicting 57,000 nature damage. Again, you just need to heal through that. And his final ability is called Electric Pulse, and this will cause a lightning orb to travel between the power runes, inflicting a moderate amount of nature damage every 0.8 seconds to nearby enemies. Now, it is also worth noting that these little kind of semicircle protective bubbles appear on the ground every time you've disabled the power conduits that are around the room. And these can sometimes cause issues when you're trying to get back onto the platform that you're actually fighting Gor Ashan on, because they knock you back or slow you down as you try and run through them and push you to the sides. So if you get 2 or 3 of them kind of stacked on top of each other at the little ramp to go up to Gor Ashan, it might cause a few issues. So ideally you want your range to go down and disable the power conduits and not your melee, just so that they can actually still hit the boss if they do have the trouble of getting back up to stand next to him. Moving on, the next boss goes by the name of Kyrak, and he's a bit of a flashback to Maloriak in Blackwing Descent way back in patch 5.0 during Cataclysm. And that fight was really good, so this fight is also pretty decent as well. It's fun, it's good. So first of all, we're going to talk about these big draconian monstrosities that you can see standing next to him, and they have 2 abilities that you're going to have to deal with, both of which are kind of dealt with by your tank. Now the first one is called Monstrous Swipe, and his attacks have a chance to cleave enemies for a moderate amount of physical damage. So in order to deal with this, you just need to kind of make sure that your tank is the only one standing in front of the monstrosities and everyone else is behind them. The next ability goes by the name of Eruption, and this causes them to do a kind of line of flames in front of them, which inflicts a high amount of fire damage instantly and will also disorient people. It will also add a dot to that player, and it will inflict an additional 5,000 fire damage every 1 second for 3 seconds. So you just need to simply not get hit by the eruption. It's fairly simple to dodge. Now moving on to Kyrak, he's got 3 abilities you're going to have to deal with, and the first one is called Debilitating Fixation. And this causes him to just fixate on a target and channel a beam of debilitating energy, which inflicts 30,000 shadow damage every 1 second. It also decreases movement speed and also damage dealt. However, this ability is interruptible, so you need to make sure you're interrupting it as soon as possible. His next ability is called Rejuvenating Serum, and again, just like Maloriak, he will drink a potion which will cause him to heal for 5% of his maximum health every 3 seconds for 30 seconds. Now, this is a magic effect, so it can be removed from him. So, as you probably might have seen in the background, I'm a mage, so I just simply spell stole this ability from him. And his third and final ability is called Vile Blood Serum, and this causes poison to erupt from him, creating these little green puddles that spawn underneath people that inflict a moderate amount of nature damage every 1.5 seconds. It is worth noting that you are able to move away from the poison puddle's impact location before it lands in order to not take any damage from it. Now moving on again, the third boss goes by the name of Commander Tharbek. However, it is worth noting that before you can actually fight him, you do need to defeat 3 waves of adds and mobs, of kind of mixed mobs, that don't really seem to deal too much damage. We didn't have any problems with them. All you need to simply get your tank to do is to round them all up and then just cleave and AoE them down as fast as you can. It may benefit your raid or group if you do kind of use crowd controls on certain mobs, because as the waves progress, the mobs do tend to, get a bit stronger each time. So by the time you reach the 3rd wave, you've got some mobs that are hitting quite hard, and you've also got mobs that do summon other mobs, so you need to make sure they're interrupted and or crowd controlled. Now once you've defeated the 3rd wave of adds, Commander Tharbek will join the fight, and he'll also bring an Iron Barb Sky Reaver with him. The Sky Reaver's got 2 abilities, the first of which is called Incinerating Breath, which is a cone of fire that he'll breathe in front of him, inflicting a moderate amount of fire damage every 1 second, and also increasing your fire damage taken by 100%. Simple fire mechanics, don't stand in it. And the Sky Reaver's next ability is called Noxious Spit, which will cause him to create a puddle of acid, which inflicts 25,000 nature damage every 1.5 seconds. Again, kind of standard don't stand in it mechanics, move out of the noxious green puddle of spit that's on the floor. Now Tharbek himself's only got 4 abilities to deal with, and the fight is relatively simple. His first ability is called Iron Axe, and this will cause him to inflict 45,000 physical damage, and also cause the target to bleed for 2,000 damage every 1.5 seconds, and that debuff will last for 6 seconds. That's obviously something he's going to be using on the tank, so your healers will need to be prepared to heal through that debuff when it is applied. His next ability is called Iron Reaver, and this causes him to charge a target, inflicting 38,000 to 42,000 damage to anyone that is in the way. So this is a bit like one of the Paragons on Paragons of the Klaxi that runs around like a madman. Whenever he runs to someone, anyone that's in the way will get hit and take a moderate amount of damage. Again, his next ability is a page out of Nazgrim's book, and it's called Imbued Iron Axe, and this causes him to throw a whirling axe, which inflicts the same amount of damage as the Iron Reaver to anyone that gets hit by it. We did find that the damage from the axe was bigger than the actual animation, so just make sure you are standing a safe distance away from it. And his final ability is called Iron Rage, and this simply causes his damage inflicted to be increased by 50%. So that's obviously the point when your healers might need to pick it up a bit if people do start getting hit by abilities, and also when it comes to keeping your tank alive. Now moving on to the 4th boss, who goes by the name of Ragewing the Untamed, and what would Upper Blackrock Spire be without a dragon boss / a few whelps to throw into the mix. Now he's got a few abilities, however the main thing you need to know is that you will fight him on this bridge, and you kind of need to know specific positions on the bridge at certain times during the fight. Mainly for his first ability, which is called Engulfing Fire, which causes him to breathe a cone of fire in a line in front of him, inflicting a high amount of fire damage, and it will also disorient anyone it hits for 3 seconds. Now he tends to start at one side of the bridge and move to the other side with his ability, but it doesn't cover the entire bridge, so what we did was we stood in the middle of the bridge, and when he started to breathe the fire, we'd obviously move to the opposite side of where he started, and we seemed pretty safe and didn't tend to get hit by it. His next ability is called Magma Spit, and this causes him to simply spit magma at an enemy, inflicting 8,000 damage and also leaving a puddle of magma on the floor. Standard don't stand in this mechanics do apply at this moment in time. His next ability is called Ripping Claw, and this causes him to tear at the target's flesh, so your tank's flesh, causing the target to bleed for 3,500 damage every 1.5 seconds, and that debuff persists for 20 seconds. Now, at certain points during the fight, he will fly up into the air and will summon a group of whelps to obviously come and attack you, because many whelps, why not? And during this time, he'll also cast an ability called Firestorm, which will cause him to spit fire, which inflicts a high amount of fire damage to anyone that does get hit by it. So once again, standard do not stand in the fire puddles on the ground. Mechanics do apply here. And his final ability is called Burning Rage, and this increases his damage dealt by 40% and can stack up to 4 times. Obviously your healers just need to be aware of the stacks that he has of that in order to compensate for the damage he will be dealing. It's also worth noting that after Rage Wing has flown into the air a few times and spat fire and summoned whelps, he will actually land on the bridge as opposed to flying next to the bridge, so we found it was best just to stack up or spread out behind him so that you could easily move from the magma puddles when they did get fired at players. And the 5th and final boss in this dungeon goes by the name of Warlord Zayla, and she will also use the power of dragons during this fight, but we'll speak about that in a moment. Now Zayla has only got 3 abilities she's going to fire at your raid, and the first one is called Destructive Smite, and this simply causes her to inflict 110,000 physical damage. That's just a big hit that's going to need to be healed through, and cooldowns are obviously going to need to be used. Her next ability is called Rebounding Blade, and this causes her to throw her axe, inflicting a moderate amount of physical damage to the target, and it will then bounce in order to hit up to 2 more nearby enemies. You can spread out for this, but it does seem to keep on rebounding until it's hit 2 more people, so it might just be a bit buggy at this moment in time. And her third and final ability is called Black Iron Cyclone, and this causes her to literally go crazy, fixate on a random player, and start dealing a high amount of physical damage to anyone for every 1.5 seconds they are standing near her. This just means you need to simply move away from her and kite her around this little platform that you're on. Now as the fight progresses, she will summon these Ember Scale Ironflight dragons to her aid. Now they have got 500,000 health and you can attack them, but well, I was kind of attacking them and people weren't, so I thought, okay, I'm just going to hit Zayla instead. But what they would do is cast an ability called Burning Breath, which breathes a very wide line of fire in front of them, inflicting a high amount of fire damage to anyone that gets hit by it. Now on normal, only 2 of these flew around the platform and started breathing fire at us, and because they only had 500,000 health, we didn't feel it was necessary to actually kill them, so we just focused on Zayla instead. So that's going to do it for this Warlords of Draenor Beta preview video. Hopefully you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please do feel free to subscribe to the channel, or alternatively, if you'd like to keep up to date with all of the latest Warlords of Draenor news, please do feel free to head on over to flaskup.com.